I was talking with my friend a while ago, and we were on the train back from the city. And one thing that really hit me was that ever since I deleted social media, I've become more accustomed to pausing while speaking. And it's crazy that I have to say that I've become accustomed to it when in reality it's supposed to be that way always. For example, I never noticed this before, but a lot of the videos on TikTok, when you watch them, they're split up into several different chunks, each one of them cut in a certain way that there's no pause between the person's words or their thoughts. So it's like a constant stream with many buffers within them. And it's really interesting because when I was at the peak of my TikTok and Instagram addiction, I never noticed it and I became so used to it that I would fill the way I'm speaking right now. I'm like pausing to make sure, and I'm making like a conscious effort to not say things such as and like, but I would fill every single silence with gunk like that. I don't think gunk is the right word. Maybe it's just filler, but it's really interesting to think about. And another thing we talked about was memory and ways to describe it and the ways that they've been impacted ever since I deleted my apps, my accounts. And the first thing I want to talk about is describing what I feel like memory is if it were a physical thing. For my first or my initial description, I said that I clumped my memories based on feelings, and in places where they overlap, there's opportunity for there to be a connection to another cluster, another Venn diagram of emotions, if you will. And from that, from these overlapping areas, I can traverse through all sorts of different things. And that's how my memory goes, or my thought process goes from one thing to the next. And then I veer completely off course and into some backwood. But the more I thought about it, the more I pondered other possibilities of what my brain and my memory could be like if it were a physical thing. And the image that I think most accurately represents the way my memory works is that there's a big white curtain, and if you look as close as you can, it really isn't white at all. It's just so many different moments, emotions, all these sensory details that have been put into my brain make up this. I don't remember if I said curtain or if I said wall, but they make up this obstacle or this threshold. And when you look in close enough, you see everything, but when you're far away, it just looks white and it looks blank. And I can't access it by standing in front of it, nor can I. What I meant to say was, I can't force myself to see a certain memory if it's alongside too many other similar ones, or not similar ones, but just alongside too many other ones. And the way it works is something would, from the other side, would pass through and come to the forefront of my consciousness. But I can't cross that threshold because there's so many. This is my theory. I can't cross it because there's so many things that happened that caused my memory to converge and leave blank spots where they once were. I had something else that I wanted to talk about. Oh, yeah. The effect of social media on memory and thinking and the way I talk and write and all that stuff. So, I've noticed that let me give you guys a bit of background. I've been addicted to social media ever since I was in elementary school. And it was a sort of addiction that I still haven't been able to shake, as I've only deleted my social media accounts and I've signed out of everything very recently. And I still feel its effects. And one of those effects is when I write, I feel like I can only write nugget-sized chunks and not an entire piece in one sitting, because my brain's been so used to seeing and hearing and drowning in these little bite-sized pieces of information. So when I try to get information out and string words along in a certain way, it follows that same pattern of short form, standalone sentences. And I thought that was really interesting, because when I was in 10th grade, I never really thought about how I wasn't able to write full essays in my class. I talked to my teacher about this. He was like, he never really dove into the conversation with me about that. We veered off into some other topic, but he said to nurture that, and maybe if that's what works for me, then do it. And now that I'm thinking back on it, this might be the reason why I was never able to write long form works the way everyone else was, because of my continued addiction to short form media. And I thought that was really interesting, because it also mimics the way I think. My first description of how I thought my memory would work, with the overlapping bubbles and then the overlapping areas connecting, and then from there I can jump from one place to another all over the place. I think that is also a result of all the short form content I consumed. Sorry. But yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about today. When I sat my computer down to record this video, I really had no idea what I wanted to say. I had no idea what I wanted to talk about or think about. I just came back from a walk barefoot, and I really like walking barefoot. The suburbs of New York are a very walkable location, with the Bronx River Parkway nearby. I wouldn't walk there barefoot, but there have been times where I've never walked barefoot over there. But I have walked barefoot a lot around my neighborhood, and it is an incredible experience. I've always liked walking barefoot, even as a kid. Maybe I'm Australian at heart. Maybe I'm Australian at heart. Yeah. I'm from a land down under. That's me. Anyways, 8-minute video. 8-minute tangent. I think that's pretty good. Alright, peace.